Rain poured down the deserted suburban streets as Marie peered out from behind her curtains, heart pounding. The flashing lights of a black SUV cast an ominous glow over her quiet cul-de-sac. Two imposing figures in suits emerged, approaching her front door with purpose. Asterisk, they found me, asterisk, she thought, panic rising. After months of carefully planning her operation, it had all come down to this. A high-stakes confrontation with the Homeowners Association's ruthless enforcers. Marie took a deep breath, steeling her nerves. She knew the risks, but there was no going back now. Gripping the manila envelope on her kitchen counter, she strode to the door and swung it open, jaw set with determination. Mrs. Erickson, we have a warrant to search your premises. The taller of the two men flashed a badge. You've been accused of violating several HOA bylaws. We need you to come with us. Marie feigned surprise, widening her eyes. I'm sorry, officers, but I have no idea what you're talking about. Is there a problem? The men exchanged a glance. Don't play dumb with us, ma'am. We have eyewitness accounts and photographic evidence of your unauthorized garage sale last weekend. Marie felt a bead of sweat trickle down her back. Asterisk so. They're on to me, asterisk. She quickly schooled her features into an expression of confusion. Garage sale. But that's perfectly allowed under the HOA guidelines. I even checked the rules beforehand. The shorter man stepped forward, his face set in a menacing scowl. Not when you're selling items that violate the aesthetics and property value clause. Those tacky lawn gnomes you were peddling, they're an eyesore and bring down the whole neighborhood. Marie fought the urge to smirk. Asterisk if only you knew asterisk. Officers, I assure you, I was just trying to declutter my home and make a little extra cash. There's no need for all this. Save it. The taller man cut her off, his voice stern. You're coming with us. The HOA board has already convened an emergency meeting to discuss your infraction. Failure to comply will result in hefty fines and potential legal action. Marie's mind raced as she weighed her options. She knew the HOA wielded immense power in the community, their rules enforced with an iron fist. But she also had a few tricks up her sleeve. Squaring her shoulders, she fixed the men with a defiant stare. I'm afraid I can't do that, officers. I have done nothing wrong, and I won't be bullied by your corrupt organization. If you have a problem with my garage sale, you can take it up with the city council. The men exchanged another look, their expressions darkening. Ma'am, you don't understand the gravity of this situation. The HOA board doesn't take kindly to. I understand perfectly well. Marie interrupted, her voice dripping with contempt. This is about power and control, not protecting property values. Well, I'm not playing by your rules anymore. Reaching into the envelope, she pulled out a stack of documents and thrust them at the men. Here are the permits I obtained from City Hall, authorizing my garage sale on public property. I'm well within my rights, and if you try to interfere, you'll be the ones facing legal action. The officers stared at the papers, stunned. Marie allowed herself a small, triumphant smile. Asterisk checkmate. Asterisk. This isn't over, Mrs. Erickson. The taller man growled, his face flushed with anger. The HOA board will hear about this, and they won't be pleased. I'm counting on it, Marie replied coolly. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a garage sale to run. As the men retreated to their SUV, Marie closed the door, her hands trembling slightly. The battle had just begun, but she was ready. The corrupt HOA had no idea what they were up against. The rain had let up, but a heavy gray mist hung over the streets as Marie made her way to City Hall, a determined glint in her eye. Despite the HOA's threats, she refused to back down. This was her chance to take the fight to them on her own terms. As she approached the grand, neoclassical building, Marie could see a growing crowd gathered in the courtyard, sheltering under umbrellas and tarps. Her makeshift garage sale was in full swing, with locals browsing her meticulously curated selection of goods. Asterisk perfect. Asterisk Marie waded into the throng, greeting familiar faces and directing customers to the best deals. She may have been forced to relocate, but this new venue brought far more foot traffic than her sleepy cul-de-sac ever could. Halfway through the afternoon, Marie spotted a familiar black SUV idling at the curb. Her heart skipped a beat as the imposing figures from earlier emerged, scanning the crowd with narrowed eyes. "Looks like the HOA's goon squad is here," a gruff voice said beside her. Marie turned to see her neighbor, Carl, watching the men with a scowl. "I was expecting them," Marie replied coolly. "But I'm ready. This is my turf now." Carl chuckled, shaking his head. "You've got balls, I'll give you that. Most people in this town are too scared to stand up to the HOA. Well, I'm not most people." Marie's gaze hardened as she watched the men approach, their expressions thunderous. "Mrs. Erickson." The taller officer thrust a thick stack of papers at her. "These are cease and desist orders from the HOA. You're in direct violation of numerous bylaws by conducting this unauthorized sale on public property." Marie took the documents, flipping through them calmly. "I see. And what exactly are the penalties for this violation?" "Fines of up to $10,000 per day, for starters," the man sneered. "And if you refuse to comply, we'll be forced to seek a court order to shut this down." Marie felt a surge of adrenaline. Asterisk still. They're playing hardball. Asterisk. She let a small smile tug at the corner of her mouth. "Well, you're welcome to try. But as I mentioned before, I have the proper permits from the city. This sale is completely legal." The shorter officer stepped forward, his face contorted with anger. "That may be true, but the HOA has the authority to supersede any city regulations. You're on private property, and you'll abide by our rules, or else." "Private property?" Marie arched an eyebrow. "This is a public courtyard, paid for and maintained by taxpayer funds. The HOA has no jurisdiction here." The men exchanged a tense look, their jaws clenching. Marie could practically see the gears turning in their heads as they tried to formulate a response. "Look, lady, we're just trying to do our jobs here," the taller one said, his voice strained. "The HOA board wants this shut down, and they've got the resources to make your life hell if you don't comply." Marie leaned in, her eyes narrowing. "Well, you can tell the HOA board that I'm not going anywhere. In fact, I'm planning to be here every weekend from now on. And if they try to stop me, I'll be more than happy to take them to court." The officers glared at her, their frustration palpable. Marie could almost see the steam coming out of their ears. Asterisk checkmate? Again asterisk. "This isn't over," the shorter man growled, jabbing a finger in her direction. "You mark my words, Mrs. Erickson. The HOA always gets what it wants." "We'll see about that," Marie replied calmly as the men retreated to their SUV. As they drove away, the crowd erupted into applause, slapping Marie on the back and congratulating her on her defiance. Carl grinned, handing her a cold can of soda. "Nicely done, neighbor. Looks like you've got the HOA on the ropes." Marie popped the tab, taking a long sip. "Oh, this is just the beginning. They have no idea what I have in store for them." Her gaze drifted to the receding taillights of the black SUV, a steely determination burning in her eyes. Asterisk round one goes to me. But the real fight is just getting started asterisk. The next few days passed in a blur of activity for Marie. Word of her standoff with the HOA had spread like wildfire through the community, igniting a spark of hope and rebellion among her neighbors. Encouraged by her success, Marie doubled down on her efforts, organizing a series of weekly garage sales at the City Hall courtyard. Each event drew larger crowds, as locals eager to stick it to the HOA flocked to browse her wares and show their support. But the HOA was not about to go down without a fight. Marie's phone was soon ringing off the hook with angry calls from the board, their threats growing more dire with each passing day. This is your final warning, Mrs. Erickson. The HOA president, a pompous man named Gregory, spat. If you don't shut down this illegal operation immediately, we'll have no choice but to take legal action. Marie leaned back in her chair, twirling a pen between her fingers. I'm listening, Gregory. What exactly are you threatening to do? There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. Well, we'll sue you for breach of contract, for starters, and we'll petition the city to revoke your permits. You won't be able to hold these sales anymore. Marie chuckled. You know, Gregory, I've read the HOA bylaws very carefully. And nowhere does it say I can't hold a garage sale on public property. As for the permits, the city has been nothing but supportive of my efforts to stand up to your corrupt organization. Gregory let out a frustrated growl. This isn't over, Mrs. Erickson. The HOA board has deep pockets and a team of ruthless lawyers. We will bury you in legal fees until you have no choice but to comply. Bring it on, Marie replied coolly. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve, too. And I'm not afraid to take this all the way to the city council if I have to. As she hung up the phone, Marie felt a surge of adrenaline. The HOA was clearly rattled, and she was determined to keep the pressure on. Reaching for her laptop, she began drafting a scathing letter to the local newspaper, outlining the HOA's abuses and her fight for justice. Asterisk. If I can't win this through the courts, I'll win it in the court of public opinion asterisk. The next weekend, Marie's garage sale was bigger and bolder than ever. Banners and posters adorned the courtyard, proclaiming, Fight the HOA, and Stand up for your rights. Marie had even hired a local DJ to provide a lively soundtrack, drawing in curious onlookers from the surrounding streets. As the crowds swelled, Marie kept a watchful eye, anticipating the HOA's next move. Sure enough, just after noon, the familiar black SUV pulled up, and the two imposing officers from before emerged, scowling. Mrs. Erickson, we have a court order to shut down this illegal operation, the taller one announced, thrusting a stack of papers at her. Marie scanned the documents, her brow furrowing. This is outrageous. The city has already approved my permits. You have no legal standing to do this. The HOA has deep pockets, ma'am, the shorter officer sneered. They were able to pull some strings and get an emergency injunction. Now, I suggest you start packing up. Marie felt a surge of rage. Asterisk so. That's how they want to play it. Asterisk, squaring her shoulders, she addressed the growing crowd, her voice ringing out with authority. Ladies and gentlemen, it seems the HOA has resorted to bullying tactics to try and shut down our peaceful gathering. But I say we don't go down without a fight. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause, rallying behind her. Marie felt a thrill of triumph. Asterisk, this is far from over asterisk. Officers, you can tell the HOA board that I won't be intimidated, she declared, her eyes narrowed. If they want to take this to court, then let's take it to court. But I promise you, they're going to regret the day they crossed me. The courtroom was tense as Marie stood before the judge, her jaw set with determination. The HOA's high-powered legal team sat across the aisle, their expressions smug. Your Honor, the evidence is clear, Gregory, the HOA president, proclaimed. Mrs. Erickson has flagrantly violated our community's bylaws by conducting these unauthorized garage sales on public property. She has disrupted the peace and tranquility of our neighborhood, and we demand that she be held accountable. Marie stepped forward, her gaze unwavering. Your Honor, I've read the HOA's bylaws from cover to cover, and nowhere do they prohibit me from holding a garage sale on public property. The city has approved my permits, and I'm well within my rights. The judge, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, regarded them both with a frown. Be that as it may, Mrs. Erickson, the HOA is claiming that your actions have had a detrimental impact on the community. They're seeking a permanent injunction to prevent you from continuing these sales. Marie nodded, her mind racing. I understand, Your Honor. But the HOA's claims are simply not true. In fact, my garage sales have been a boon for the local economy, drawing in customers from all over the city and generating much-needed revenue for our community. She gestured to the packed courtroom, where dozens of her supporters sat, their faces set with determination. You can see for yourself the overwhelming support I have from my neighbors. They're the ones who are truly being harmed by the HOA's heavy-handed tactics. The judge's gaze swept over the room, and Marie caught a hint of a smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. That may be true, Mrs. Erickson. However, the HOA is claiming that your activities have violated their property rights and damaged the value of the surrounding homes. Your Honor, that's simply not the case, Marie interjected. The HOA's so-called property rights don't extend to the public courtyard, which is owned and maintained by the city. And as for property values, my garage sales have actually brought more foot traffic and potential buyers to the area. She paused, letting her words sink in. The HOA's real motivation here is not to protect the neighborhood, but to maintain their own power and control. They're afraid of losing their grip on the community, and they'll stop at nothing to crush any dissent. Gregory's face flushed with anger, and he leaned forward, his voice dripping with contempt. That's a ridiculous accusation, Your Honor. The HOA is simply upholding the rules and regulations that all homeowners agreed to when they moved into this community. Agreed to under threat of exorbitant fines and legal action, you mean? Marie shot back, her eyes narrowing. The HOA has a long history of using underhanded tactics to intimidate and bully residents who dare to challenge their authority. The judge held up a hand, silencing the heated exchange. All right, I think I've heard enough. I'm going to take this matter under advisement and render a decision within the next 48 hours. Marie felt a flicker of hope as the judge dismissed the court. As she gathered her things, she caught Gregory's eye, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. Better start preparing your appeal, Gregory. This fight is far from over. As Marie stepped out into the rain-soaked streets, she was greeted by a throng of supporters, their faces alight with enthusiasm. You really showed them, Marie. One of her neighbors exclaimed, clapping her on the back. The HOA doesn't stand a chance against you. Marie smiled, feeling a surge of energy coursing through her veins. Asterisk, that's right. This is just the beginning. Asterisk. She knew the battle was far from over. But she was more determined than ever to take down the corrupt HOA and restore justice to her community. Asterisk, the real fight is just getting started. Asterisk, she thought, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Asterisk, and I'm not going down without a fight. Asterisk. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the judge read out her verdict. Marie sat on the edge of her seat, her heart pounding in her chest. After carefully considering the evidence and arguments presented by both parties, I have come to a decision. The judge's voice was stern, her expression unreadable. The injunction sought by the Homeowners Association is hereby denied. Marie felt a surge of relief wash over her as the judge continued. The court finds that Mrs. Erickson's garage sales on public property do not constitute a violation of the HOA's bylaws or a threat to the community's property values. In fact, the evidence suggests that her activities have had a positive economic impact on the surrounding area. A collective gasp rippled through the room, and Marie caught sight of Gregory's face, contorted with fury. She had to fight the urge to grin triumphantly. However, the judge added, raising a hand to silence the murmurs, I must caution Mrs. Erickson that continued disruption of the neighborhood's peace and tranquility will not be tolerated. Any further infractions will result in immediate legal action. Marie nodded solemnly, though inwardly she was beaming. Asterisk going round down, but the war is far from over. Asterisk. As the court was dismissed, Marie was swarmed by a throng of well-wishers, her neighbors' faces alight with relief and excitement. I knew you could do it, Marie. One woman exclaimed, her eyes shining. That HOA has been pushing us around for too long. This is a huge win for the community. Marie smiled, basking in the wave of support. This is just the beginning, folks. We've got to keep the pressure on and show the HOA that we won't be intimidated. Amid the celebratory atmosphere, Marie caught sight of Gregory, his expression dark as he stalked out of the courtroom, a gaggle of suited lawyers in tow. She knew the fight was far from over, and the HOA would undoubtedly seek to appeal the decision. Well, let them try, she thought, steeling her resolve. Came more than ready for them. In the days that followed, Marie's garage sales continued to draw larger crowds, with locals eager to support her defiance of the HOA. The media coverage of the court battle had only served to heighten public interest, and Marie found herself inundated with interview requests and messages of encouragement. But as the weeks passed, the HOA's retaliation grew more aggressive. Marie's phone was constantly ringing with angry calls from the board, and she began to notice suspicious activity around her home. Unmarked vans parked on her street, strange noises in the night, and a sudden spike in code enforcement visits. "They're trying to intimidate you, Marie," Carl, her neighbor, warned one evening as they discussed the latest developments. "The HOA has deep pockets, and they're not going to give up without a fight." Marie nodded, her brow furrowed in concern. "I know, Carl. But I'm not going to back down. This is about more than just my right to hold a garage sale. It's about standing up to a corrupt system that's been exploiting and abusing our community for far too long." Carl let out a sigh, shaking his head. "I'd admire your grit, Marie, but you've got to be careful. These people play dirty, and they won't hesitate to come after you and your family if they feel threatened." Marie's expression hardened. "Then let them come. I'm not afraid, and I won't be bullied. This is my home, and I'm going to fight for it, no matter what it takes." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the quiet street, Marie couldn't help but feel a prickle of unease. The HOA's retaliation was only just beginning, and she knew that the real battle was still to come. I won't back down, she thought, her jaw set with determination. Not now, not ever, . The rain was pouring down in sheets as Marie hurried home, her umbrella struggling to keep up. The windows of her car were fogged, and she could barely make out the shadowy figures on the sidewalk. Something's not right, she thought, a chill running down her spine. As she pulled into her driveway, she noticed a figure lurking in the shadows near her front door. Swallowing hard, Marie grabbed her keys and slowly got out of the car, her heart pounding. "Who's there?" she called out, trying to keep her voice steady. The figure stepped forward, and Marie felt her breath catch in her throat. It was one of the HOA's enforcers, his face set in a menacing scowl. "Mrs. Erickson," he growled, "we need to have a little chat." Marie steeled her nerves, meeting his gaze with a defiant stare. "What do you want?" The man took a step closer, his eyes narrowed. "The HOA board is getting tired of your little rebellion. They've asked us to deliver a message." Marie felt a chill of dread wash over her. "What kind of message?" The man's lips curled into a cruel smile. "The kind that says you'd better start playing by our rules, or else." Before Marie could react, the man lunged forward, grabbing her arm in a vice-like grip. "Consider this a warning, Mrs. Erickson. The next time, it won't be so pleasant." With that, he shoved her backward, causing her to stumble and nearly lose her footing. Marie watched, trembling, as the man disappeared into the night, the sound of his footsteps fading into the rain. Shaken, she hurried inside, locking the door behind her. Her hands were shaking as she fumbled for her phone, calling the police. "There's been an incident at my home," she reported, her voice quivering. "One of the HOA's enforcers just threatened me. I need an officer to come take a report." After hanging up, Marie paced the living room, her mind racing. They're escalating. This is getting dangerous, . When the police arrived, She recounted the details of the encounter, describing the man's appearance and the nature of the threat. The officer listened intently, his brow furrowed in concern. "This sounds like a clear case of intimidation and harassment, ma'am," he said, jotting down notes. "We'll be sure to pass this information along to the district attorney's office." Marie nodded, feeling a slight sense of relief. "Thank you, officer. I just hope this doesn't escalate any further." The officer gave her a sympathetic look. "I understand you're in the middle of a heated dispute with the HOA, ma'am. But you need to be careful. These people don't play by the rules, and they won't hesitate to use underhanded tactics to get their way." Marie sighed, her gaze drifting to the windows. "I know, but I won't back down. This is my home, and I'm not going to let them bully me into submission." The officer nodded, his expression grave. "Just be vigilant, Mrs. Erickson. And don't hesitate to call us if you have any more trouble. We'll do our best to protect you." As the officer left, Marie felt a surge of determination. They're trying to scare me, but it's not going to work. She knew the HOA was growing increasingly desperate, and their tactics were only going to get dirtier. But she was ready. This fight is far from over. She thought, her jaw set with resolve. And I'm going to win, no matter what it takes to **. The courtroom was silent as Marie stood before the judge, her expression grim. The HOA's legal team sat across the aisle, their faces triumphant. "Your Honor, the evidence is clear," Gregory, the HOA president, declared. "Mrs. Erickson has repeatedly violated our community's bylaws, disrupting the peace and tranquility of the neighborhood. She has shown complete disregard for the rules and regulations that all homeowners agreed to when they moved in." Marie stepped forward, her eyes narrowed. "Your Honor, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The HOA's bylaws do not prohibit me from holding these garage sales on public property. The city has approved my permits, and I'm well within my rights." The judge raised a hand, silencing the heated exchange. "Be that as it may, Mrs. Erickson, the HOA is now alleging that your actions have endangered the safety and security of the community." Marie felt a chill run down her spine. Endangered the safety. What is this all about, **? "Your Honor, that's simply not true," she protested. "My garage sales have been nothing but peaceful and well organized. I've taken every precaution to ensure the safety and comfort of my neighbors." Gregory leaned forward, a smug expression on his face. "That's where you're wrong, Mrs. Erickson. We have evidence that your activities have attracted criminal elements to the area, putting the entire community at risk." Marie's brow furrowed in confusion. "What are you talking about?" The judge cleared her throat, her expression grave. "According to the HOA's reports, there have been several incidents of vandalism, theft, and even violent altercations in the vicinity of your garage sales. They're claiming that your events have become a magnet for undesirable elements, jeopardizing the safety and property values of the surrounding homes." Marie felt her heart sink. This can't be happening, She knew the HOA was ruthless, but she never imagined they would stoop to such blatant fabrications. "Your Honor, I can assure you that these claims are completely baseless," she argued, her voice trembling with frustration. "I've worked tirelessly to ensure that my events are safe and well controlled. There has been no increase in criminal activity in the area, and the HOA is simply trying to manipulate the facts to suit their own agenda." Gregory leaned back in his chair, a smug grin spreading across his face. "The evidence speaks for itself, Your Honor. We have eyewitness accounts, police reports, and even surveillance footage to support our claims. It's clear that Mrs. Erickson's garage sales have become a public nuisance and a threat to the safety and security of our community." Marie felt her blood boil. They're lying through their teeth, She opened her mouth to protest, but the judge raised a hand, silencing her. "I've heard enough, Mrs. Erickson. While I understand your desire to stand up to the HOA, The evidence presented here is troubling. I'm going to have to issue a temporary injunction prohibiting you from holding any further garage sales on public property until this matter can be thoroughly investigated. Marie felt her heart sink as the judge's words sank in. No, this can't be happening. She knew the HOA had the resources and the influence to bury her in legal fees and red tape, and she was rapidly running out of options. As the court was dismissed, Marie found herself surrounded by a crowd of concerned neighbors, their faces etched with disappointment and fear. "I'm so sorry, Marie," one woman whispered, her eyes brimming with tears. "We tried to warn you, but they're just too powerful." Marie felt a surge of determination coursing through her veins. This isn't over. I won't let them win. She knew what she had to do. It's time to take the fight to the next level. The city council chamber was packed to the brim as Marie stood before the assembled officials, her face set with determination. The HOA's lawyers sat off to the side, their expressions smug. "Honorable members of the city council," Marie began, her voice clear and unwavering. "I'm here today to expose the corruption and abuse of power within our local homeowners association." She paused, letting her words sink in. "For months, I've been fighting to defend my right to hold peaceful garage sales on public property. But the HOA has used every underhanded tactic in the book to try and shut me down." Marie gestured to the audience, where dozens of her neighbors sat, their faces etched with determination. "These good people have stood by me, and they know the truth. The HOA's claims of criminal activity and threats to public safety are nothing more than blatant lies, designed to suppress my right to free speech and assembly." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and Marie felt a surge of energy coursing through her veins. This is it. Time to pull out all the stops. "Honorable council members, I've uncovered evidence that the HOA has been engaging in a vast web of corruption and self-enrichment," she continued, her voice rising with conviction. "They've been using their power to line their own pockets, exploiting homeowners through unfair fines and excessive fees." The HOA's lawyers shifted uncomfortably in their seats, exchanging nervous glances. But that's not all. Marie's gaze swept across the room, her eyes narrowed. "We've also discovered that the HOA president, Gregory, has been accepting kickbacks from local contractors in exchange for lucrative maintenance and repair contracts." A collective gasp went up from the audience, and Marie could see the council members exchanging troubled looks. "This is outrageous," one council member exclaimed, his face flushed with anger. "If these allegations are true, it would be a clear violation of our city's ethics codes and procurement policies." Marie nodded solemnly. "I can assure you, sir, that every word I've said is the truth, and I have the evidence to prove it." She turned to the audience, her expression intense. "My fellow citizens, the HOA has been exploiting and abusing us for far too long. It's time to take a stand and demand accountability. We need to dismantle this corrupt organization and restore power to the people." The crowd erupted into thunderous applause, their cheers echoing through the chamber. Marie felt a surge of triumph coursing through her veins. This is it. The tipping point. As the din finally subsided, the council members leaned in, their expressions grave. "Mrs. Erickson, these are very serious allegations you've made. If true, it would be a gross betrayal of the public trust." The mayor's brow was furrowed with concern. "We'll need to launch a full investigation into the HOA's activities." Marie nodded, a determined glint in her eye. "I welcome such an investigation, Your Honor. The people of this community deserve to know the truth." The HOA's lawyers had risen from their seats, their faces ashen. "This is outrageous," one of them sputtered. "The HOA has done nothing wrong. These are baseless accusations." The mayor raised a hand, silencing the protests. "We'll be the judge of that, counselor. In the meantime, I'm ordering a temporary freeze on all HOA activities and expenditures, pending the completion of our investigation. Marie felt a surge of triumph as the lawyers' faces contorted with fury. Asterisk checkmate. Asterisk. As the council adjourned, Marie was surrounded by a throng of jubilant neighbors, their faces alight with excitement. "You did it, Marie," one woman exclaimed, pulling her into a tight hug. The HOA finally got what they deserved. Marie smiled, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon. Asterisk, this is just the beginning. Asterisk. She knew the battle was far from over. But for the first time in months, she felt a glimmer of hope. Asterisk. The people have spoken, and the HOA's reign of terror is finally coming to an end. Asterisk.